in today's video, we're going to be talking about Mandy the Doll. My sister's name is Mandy, by the way. So I know this might seem controversial to say, but I feel like Mandy's story is actually scarier than Robert the Doll. I know, dare I say it. But wait till you hear this doll's story. It is so much creepier. And this doll actually resides in Canada, where I am. So that makes it kind of creepier for me, at least. By the way, good news, my audio is going to be fixed in a week. I ordered some devices to put around my studio that will get rid of the echo. I cannot wait. And before we get started, I just want to give a quick shout out to my cousin Dave. He actually has his own YouTube channel. I've done so many videos over there with him, so guys, please go check him out. Go watch those videos. He also does paranormal, spooky content, so I know you guys will love him. And he's family. He's our family too. But he also has a second channel called Wreck All the Things that he does with his friends. That channel is hilarious. I know you will love that as well, so I'll link all the information down below. Go send him some V-Team love. Also, if you want to win this new background behind me, all you have to do is be subscribed to this channel, so my Jessii Vee channel, turn on your notification bell, and then head over to my Instagram page, follow me there, and DM me your favorite color in the form of an emoji. Can be any emoji in your favorite color. Alright, so let's get into the story of Mandy the Doll. A man was walking past an old farmhouse when he thought he heard some crying coming from within. Now, the odd part about this man hearing crying coming from within this farmhouse was that farmhouse had been abandoned for years. There should be no child in there whatsoever. It was falling apart, it probably had so much mold in it, and yeah, no one had lived there for probably 50 years. He walked up to the old house and knocked on the door, but there was no answer. But the crying continued, so he had to look around. He decided that he had to enter this farmhouse because obviously if there was a kid in danger, he had to go save them. So he walked in the house. It was so dusty, so dirty, but he noticed that the crying was coming from underneath him, so literally under the floorboards. He assumed it must have been coming from the cellar under the house. So he slowly made his way down there using the old creaky stairs. And as soon as he got down there, he saw something so disturbing. On the floor was a body of a young girl, and she was holding a doll in her arms. He had no idea when this girl had passed away. He didn't know how long she had been down there. He didn't know if it was an accident, if it was some sort of crime, but it is believed that when she died, her spirit decided to inhabit the doll. So that is such a creepy origin story of this man finding this poor girl holding a doll in her arms. Now, at first, no one knew the doll was haunted, so it was just passed on to a mother and a daughter who lived in the town. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I would not want to own a doll that was in the arms of someone who died. No thank you. But this mother and daughter gladly took the old doll, and almost instantly when the doll was in the mother's house, the woman could hear a crying coming from the cellar. And whenever she went to investigate this crying, nothing would be there. The cellar's windows would be open and the doll would be on the floor. So when this began to happen so frequently, obviously the mother was very afraid and tried to get rid of it. So she decided to donate it to the Quesnel and District Museum in British Columbia. And as soon as she donated this doll to the museum, all the creepy stuff that was happening in her house stopped. Now, when the woman dropped this doll off at the museum in 1991, she decided that she was gonna lie about the doll so that she could be sure this museum would take it from her. Now, this museum was not a paranormal museum. This museum just took old historical items. So she didn't want to tell them it was haunted in fear that they would reject her. So she basically just told the museum staff that it was a very old doll. It was 90 years old. And she said it was just too fragile and didn't want her young daughter playing with it in fear that she would break it. So the museum just assumed that it was a cool vintage item from history and gladly accepted it. And obviously they had no idea that there was just so much more to it than that. So let's talk a bit more about this doll's appearance. The staff took the doll and immediately felt uneasy. The doll had an incredibly creepy look to it. Its old clothing was quite old and faded. Its arms and legs were ripped in places. But most creepy of all was the doll's face. It was just so realistically painted and even had these real looking glass eyes. The forehead over the doll's right eye was cracked, causing the eye to protrude slightly. So the doll almost looked like it was really peering at people from the side of its eye because it was cracked. So Mandy the doll had to be taken to the museum's workroom to undergo some maintenance before it was put on display. So they put this doll into a plastic bag, and museums do this just to test if the item had any bugs that had infested it. So basically they kept it in a bag overnight, and if there were any bugs, the bugs would crawl into the bag and not escape, and that way they could see if they had to like eradicate any bugs. And it's kind of gross if you really think about it, but it does make sense. If you're taking in something that's 100 years old, you want to make sure there's nothing living inside of it. But the staff said they had a very uneasy feeling putting this doll into a plastic bag, mostly because it looked so realistic. Like it looked like they were putting an actual baby into a bag, and it freaked them out. And they also said the doll was almost giving them this very angry, unhappy look as they did it. Like this doll was unapproving of going into a bag. And the staff that was working in the same room as this doll said they swore they heard the bag rustling around as if the doll was moving inside of it trying to get out. And it wasn't any bugs moving, because by the end of this trial, no bugs had escaped this doll's body. But yeah, all through the night, the doll was like changing positions in the bag. Ugh. So the initial analysis of the doll was done with the whole bug thing, and then they had to take it to another room to take pictures of it. There's like a whole process this museum does. Mandy was photographed and then left in the lab overnight. And the next morning when staff re-entered the lab, they found it had been messed up overnight. So small objects had been thrown across the room, and large objects like desks and chairs and couches had literally been moved across the room. And the staff said this would happen anytime they left Mandy the doll by herself overnight. The next day, things would just be so messed up. So then it came time to put her on display in the museum. When Mandy was finally placed on display within the museum, she was one of the first things visitors would see as they passed the entryway. So she was at like the very front of the museum, the first thing anybody would see. But visitors started to complain that they had this very uneasy feeling as soon as they saw Mandy. People said that when they looked at this doll, there was just something wrong with it, something they couldn't put their finger on. And most of the time, whenever someone would take a picture of Mandy the doll, the picture would not turn out. It would either be a black screen, super blurry, weird orbs around the doll. It would just never turn out properly. Some people had even got pictures with a figure standing beside the doll. And it got to the point where so many people going to the museum were complaining that they had to move Mandy the doll to the back of the museum. Eventually, this psychic came to the museum and instantly felt this presence from the doll. So she asked the staff if they could take the doll out of the display case so she can hold the doll in her arms. The staff felt kind of weird about this, but decided it would be okay to do. And as soon as the psychic held this doll in her arms, she instantly knew what happened to the little girl. The girl that was found in the basement of the farmhouse, and that's how the staff learned about her backstory. And because all of this weird stuff was happening with the doll, they decided to reach out to that mother who originally donated it to see if she would finally fess up to it being haunted. And she did. This mother told them everything about all the creepy stuff that was happening in her house, about how she lied just to get rid of the doll. So now this museum still has this doll in a glass display case that you can still go and see. But just like Robert the doll, they say that you should ask permission before you take her picture. And it's so crazy because this museum is not meant to be a paranormal museum. It was supposed to just be things from history. But now they have this doll there that all the staff are afraid of. And yes, it is in Canada, and that's where I am from. It's in British Columbia, so it would be sort of a ways away for me to go there, but I do want to go there one day. But yeah, please comment down below, which story do you find scarier, Robert the doll or Mandy the doll? Something just gives me the heebie-jeebies about Mandy the doll. I don't really know what it is, but she scares me more than Robert. Anyway, so guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you would like me to do more videos on scary haunted dolls, I definitely can. There are so many around the world that have very scary origin stories. So if you want me to do more, definitely give this video a thumbs up and let me know. But yeah, I hope you guys have an awesome rest of your day, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!